G'day guys, on today's video we're going to be performing a basic service on this 2003 Toyota RAV4. This is the 2AZFE model with the 2.4 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine. The service today is going to involve changing the engine oil, the oil filter and the air filter, as well as the cabin air filter which filters your air conditioning. Just before we get started, you can jump down to the description below to see the full list of parts and tools that we've used, as well as some timestamps if you'd like to jump forward. So we've got some gloves and some safety glasses for protection, and some paper towel for cleaning up the mess. For the tools, we've got a socket wrench with a 14mm socket and an extension, which is going to be a bit easier to use than the 14mm spanner. We've got an oil filter socket, which makes the job a lot easier, a torque wrench, a flathead screwdriver and a funnel. And finally, you're going to need an oil drain pan with a minimum capacity of 5 litres. For the parts that we're going to be installing today, we've got an oil filter and an air filter from Toyota, and then we've got a new engine oil sump gasket. I've also got a cabin air filter from Ryco, which is the filter for your air conditioning. And then for the engine oil, I've turned to the specifications section of my Toyota owner's manual, and I've found that with an oil filter, I'm going to need 4.3 litres, with 5W30 being the preferred viscosity. So I've gone for a 5 litre 5W30 full synthetic oil can. Just before we get started on draining the engine oil, we've taken the car for a drive for about 10 or 15 minutes to get it up to operating temperature, just because that hot oil is going to drain out a bit easier. Next, we've driven the car up onto some blocks just to give us a little bit more room to work with, and then we've chocked the wheels just to make sure that it can't roll forwards or back while we're under there. We're just going to crack the engine oil filler cap, which is just on top of the engine over here, just to ensure that that old engine oil can drain out nice and easily. We're underneath the front of the car now on the driver's side. This is our engine oil sump, and this is the sump plug that we're going to be removing to drain the oil. So first up, we're going to take our drain pan and place it underneath that bolt. Then we're going to take our 14mm socket and we're just going to crack that bolt to allow us to undo it by hand. So once you've loosened it, you can take it the rest of the way by hand. Just be careful because the oil that you're draining out is going to be hot. We're going to put that plug off to the side and clean it because we're going to need to use that again later. While that oil's draining, we're going to go up to the top of the car and do the rest of the service items. The first task while we're waiting for that engine oil to drain is to change the air filter, and that's located in the airbox just here. In order to remove the airbox lid, we just need to remove the 2 clips located on the driver's side of the vehicle, and then we're going to be able to move that airbox lid to the left and it'll pop off. Just like that. And then you can remove your old air filter, and we're going to put that over to the side. Next, we're going to take our new air filter, I'm going to pop that back in the airbox, making note that the tapered side goes on the left. While you hold that in with one hand, you can take your airbox lid with your other hand and slot it into the hinges on the right hand side. And then you should be able to just close it up on the left hand side, making sure you get a nice seal around the edges. And then just close those clips up, and that's it, we've changed our air filter. We're going to change our cabin air filter now, which on most cars like this one is located up behind the glove box. So we'll pop that open, and we've just emptied it out to make this a little bit easier. So there are 2 clips located on the top left and top right hand corners of the glove box. First of all, we're just going to apply some force this way just to pop that clip out. And then we're going to do the opposite on this side, applying some force to the left. And once both those clips are out, we can just lay the glove box down there. Your cabin air filter is located inside here, and in order to get that out, we just need to put a finger or 2 behind each of these clips and just pull towards us, and they should unclip and that tray will slide out. In this case, there wasn't an existing cabin air filter. Next, we're going to take our new filter, and you'll notice that on one end it will have a direction up, so we want to make sure that that side's facing up, and then we just want to slide our cabin air filter in underneath these 4 little clips here. It might take some massaging just to get that in underneath the corners. So once that's in and sitting nice and level inside the tray, we're ready to just pop that back in, making note of which direction is up, slide it in, and it should just clip into place, and then you can close your glove box. Again, we're going to repeat the same process, pushing in on one side until it clips in, and then pulling the other side, and we're done. We're up underneath the front of the car again now, and we're just going to have a look at the oil filter, which is located just here, about 30 centimeters in front of the oil drain plug. So we're just going to slide our drain pan a little bit forward so that we can capture anything that's going to come out of here, as well as still be underneath any drips coming from that drain plug. Next, we're going to take our oil filter socket and we're going to put it on an extension. And then we're just going to use that socket drive to loosen that oil filter to a point where we can undo it by hand. And before you start turning, just make sure it's up there nice and snug. There we go. So once you've loosened it a little bit, you can get rid of your oil filter socket and pop that off to the side. Then we're just going to remove that oil filter and pop it down into the drain pan. Before we go any further, we're just going to take some paper towel and clean up the surface where the oil filter mates up to. Once we've cleaned that up, we're going to take our new oil filter, and they'll often have a little plastic cover, so you're going to want to just pull that off. In this case, this oil filter's come pre-lubricated, but if yours hasn't, you're going to want to take some new engine oil and just put it on your finger and rub it around there, just to make sure it's not a raw rubber surface when you go to do it up. So on the side of the oil filter, it'll tell us that we need to go until it contacts the surface, plus another 3/4 of a turn past that point. So we're going to place that up inside, and we're just going to get it started again by hand on that thread, just turning in a clockwise direction. So once you've got it started, just do it up by hand until you get to a point where it's touching. Then we're going to take our oil filter socket on our extension, and we're going to tighten it the 3/4 of a turn past that point in a clockwise direction. And then we're finished changing our oil filter. We're ready to reinstate the sump plug now, but before we do, I've just noticed that the old gasket was stuck onto the plug. So I'm just going to take my flathead screwdriver and just run it around the edge there, just to loosen that up and get rid of it. In some cases, you'll find that washer's stuck onto the sump as well. Back underneath the car now, and that oil's had about an hour or so to drain. So we're just going to take some paper towel and clean up the bottom of the sump, just removing any old oil before we put the plug back in. Now we're going to take our new gasket and our plug, and we're going to just do that up by hand until it's contacting the surface. Then we're going to take our torque wrench and our 14mm socket, and we're going to do that up to 30 foot-pounds, which is 40 Newton meters. Alright, we're ready to add our new engine oil now. So we're just going to remove the oil filler cap and place that off to the side. I'm going to take our funnel and pop that in there. Next, we're going to pour 4.3 litres of oil, and it's best to have the can on the side when you do this, just because that'll avoid any glugging and make it pour smoothly. I can see there that we're just under the second 500mm increment, so we're done. Now we can take some paper towel and clean that funnel up, and we're going to pop the oil filler cap back on and just let the oil sit for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll dip it to check the level. Alright, so now that that oil's had a few minutes to settle down into the engine, we're just going to dip it to confirm the level's right. So we'll just pull the stick out, wipe it off, put it back in, and pull it out. And I can see that the level's just above the full line, which is where we want it to be. That's it for the service. Now, to dispose of your waste engine oil, you can pour it into your old oil can and take it to your local auto parts store, who will dispose of it for you. Thanks for watching. If there's anything you would have done differently or something you'd like to see next time, please let us know in the comments down below. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next video. First up, we're going to put our sump plug underneath that drain pan.
You said put the sump plug underneath the drain pan.
Alright, don't do that. Can't even speak now. We're under... So we've got some safety
gloves.
But if you want to skip this bit, you can read down in the comments. Next, we're going to take our new air filter and we're going to pop that back in.
Long twisters, mate. See, look at that.
How smooth that is. It's alright, it helps your engine run better. It fills the cracks in the cylinder wall. Do you know what piston rings are made of? Alfoil.
I heard that.
Happy?
One more, and just be chill. Loose the goose, baby. Loose the goose. And smile.
Loosey goosey in 3. Now to dispose of your old waste.
That's it for the service, ladies and gentlemen.